Two major new lawsuits have been filed this week, which challenge Donald Trump and his attack on law firms and his attack again on women. I piece it all together, talk about the American Bar Association's new lawsuit, talk about the attempt to defund the Violence Against Women's Act. And I explain it in a way that will make sense to you and demystify what's going on, speaking truth to each other so we can speak truth to power. And I do it on a brand new podcast that I host called The Intersection. And here's a clip. I want to turn now with our remaining time to talk about the American Bar Association lawsuit and an attack on women and violence against women by Donald Trump that's now been addressed with a new lawsuit. There's other things I'll talk about throughout the week, like Elon Musk just filed a lawsuit against New York because they're trying to regulate hate speech, and he thinks that's a violation of the First Amendment because all he wants to do is hate speech. I'll do all that in separate hot takes, but let me do these big two pieces here so you have what you need for your week from now until at least midweek edition of Legal AF and Saturday's Legal AF. The American Bar Association was formed in the mid-1800s in Saratoga, New York, when about 150 lawyers got together in a room and said, we need a bar association. We need to regulate ourselves. We need to set standards, high standards for this profession. And so they did. And if you're a young lawyer, like when I was coming out of law school, yes, for those that are snarky, I was once a young lawyer with a lot less gray hair. When I went to Duke Law School, and even through to today, I am proud to be a member of an honorable profession. And I talk about it like a profession where I am a sworn officer of the court to tell the truth. I often have opposing lawyers who like to lie in order to try to gain a tactical advantage. I don't. I try to tell the truth. I take it seriously. My oath. I don't think it's a game. I don't try to use sharp elbow tactics that aren't based on facts. For those that are my adversaries, you hear me? I'm talking to you. So the fact that the ABA got together and said, we better propose model rules of professional conduct, which are used in all 50 states, which I swore an oath to uphold. We better propose model canons of judicial ethics, which all federal and state judges abide by, except for the United States Supreme Court. That comes out of the American Bar Association. When there is a major legal issue that needs to be addressed with one voice by the bar, the American Bar Association steps forward. I've been a member since 1992. It is about as much of a middle-of-the-road professional organization as you're going to find. It's a voluntary bar association, meaning I don't have to be a member of it, but it promotes interests that are important to me, like the rule of law, like the attack on the independence of the judiciary, like the attack on the independence of lawyers and law firms. And so in 1937, the American Bar Association went after Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who tried to pack the United States Supreme Court. They took the right position then, and they're taking the right position now. After 3 months of watching one law firm after another, the world divide effectively into 4 law firms that fought off Donald Trump successfully in court when he tried to put them on, with an executive order, on a national security risk list, right? To make them radioactive, to destroy their business model, to destroy their ability to attract business, to destroy their ability to appear in front of the federal courts or federal government on behalf of clients. 4 law firms took on Donald Trump: Jenner and Block, Sussman Gottfried, Wilmer Hale, and Perkins Coie. There's a whole nother group of lawyers and law firms that have also opposed Donald Trump, but those are the 4 that sued to get off his list and won and beat him all the way up to a permanent injunction. But there's another 24 law firms that settled with Donald Trump and others who are scared of Donald Trump and are not doing their zealous advocacy best on behalf of clients. And that undermines what makes America great, what protects our constitutional republic from the out-of-control, king-like fascist tendencies of somebody named Donald Trump. And so the American Bar Association, standing on the shoulders of those 4 suits that won, and to stop Donald Trump from continuing to have a chilling effect on law firms, brought their own case, and they're represented by one of the 4 firms, Sussman Gottfried. And in the suit, rather than just take a one-off approach like these law firms, they took the approach of declaring that Donald Trump has a policy of law firm intimidation that needs to be dismantled, needs to be stopped. And they used as examples a number, they didn't use them by name, but they numbered them: ABA member 1, ABA member 2, ABA member 3, who they have evidence based on the filing of the complaint that these lawyers and law firms are unable to take unpopular positions, including representing LGBTQ plus communities, women, disadvantaged, underprivileged, because their law firms are scared shitless of Donald Trump. And that's a problem because Donald Trump has had the desired effect. The deleterious impact he was looking for in our profession has happened. $1 billion worth of free legal services by law firms scared out of their minds by Donald Trump. So bad that Beryl Howell, one of the judges of DC, called out those law firms and said, "How dare you?" And if you're a client, how could you possibly hire one of those law firms against the federal government? You got to worry that they have divided loyalties. How are they going to represent you when they're worried about their own hides? How are they going to be zealous advocates as required by the ABA model ethics code when they bent over for Donald Trump? Right? So you have those firms. You have the firms that we haven't even identified, that the ABA has identified, that have gutted their pro bono programs, no longer representing top causes. Ruby Freeman and Shane Moss only beat Rudy Giuliani for $158 million for the defamation and doxing campaign because he accused them of voter fraud in counting votes in Fulton County, Georgia. They only win. Yes, they got the facts. Yes, they got the law, but they only win because a major law firm, Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, represented them with top flight legal service. They're out of the business now. They're one of the settling law firms. So with pro bono programs, and if lawyers don't take unpopular causes, who's going to take them? And that's what the ABA is trying to do to run interference with this lawsuit that's now been filed in DC, including seeking an injunction. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the attack on women. Does it come as a shock to anybody that Donald Trump, misogynist in chief, felon in chief, who is a judge by 2 federal juries in New York, to have sexually abused, sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll, with other women testifying about him sexually assaulting them, and the parade of infidelity in his marriage and attacks on women and affairs outside the marriage that he tried to cover up and was convicted of crimes related to it in New York? Is there any shock that he would place no value in protecting women from being abused and or killed, murdered, or sexually assaulted? And so now he's gone after the Violence Against Women Act passed in 1994, which every state has a coalition devoted with federal funding to assisting victims and to help make them not be a victim or a murder victim. Even Donald Trump's own Department of Justice, Office of Violence Against Women, still has put up results that demonstrate how high a percentage of women are murdered in this country by their domestic partner or former domestic partner, or sexual partner or former sexual partner. It is a shockingly high number that still exists in record keeping in the Trump administration to this day. And yet Donald Trump, in the interest of anti-DEI and anti-immigrant status, wants to defund these organizations and victimize the victims once again, in violation of an act of Congress, in an ultra vires act, in a violation of the First Amendment, in the violation of separation of powers, in violation of the spending clause of the Constitution, and the new lawsuit that's been filed in DC is challenging this defunding. I don't know how Donald Trump or anybody in MAGA or any of the elected officials for MAGA can look the American people and women and people who defend and support women in the eye and tell them they are for them, while they're letting this happen, causing it to happen on their watch. Congress said it doesn't matter who shows up battered and bruised at one of these offices, documented, undocumented. If it's a woman, let's stop it. Let's give resources behind it. It is a human scourge that needs to be ended. And since 1994, the statistics have barely budged. And so the anti-immigrant aspect of it is against the act of Congress. Congress makes the law, not Donald Trump. Similarly, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's a violation of the First Amendment rights of these organizations to promote their brand of victim assistance the way that they see fit, and not to be undermined by Donald Trump in terms of defunding. You see the common theme here with Donald Trump: defund things that make him uncomfortable. Defund things in a retaliatory way. That's why he's defunding Homeland Security in New York. The number one target for our enemies still remains New York. Richie Torres, the representative from New York, who just did an interview with me up tomorrow on Legal AF, he said there's been 7 plots in 2025, terrorist plots in New York. That's just in 2025, and hundreds in the last 10 years. And Donald Trump, to retaliate against his home state, is ready to defund it. So these lawsuits are important, and they generally win, just so you know. You know, the Democrats are batting well over 85, almost to 95%. They do well at the appellate court levels. They choose their courts well. That's why I often talk about, the former colonies serving a role today in this new revolution. It's the courts of Massachusetts and Rhode Island and New York and Maryland. It's like the original colonies. Sometimes California, sure. DC a lot. There's a reason we don't file these cases in Texas and in Florida, Louisiana, places like that. Not even purpley. Texas, as I said. So we'll continue to follow the results of these cases. They just got filed. I wanted you to know about them. Welcome back. In addition to Legal AF and my work here as editor-in-chief of the Legal AF YouTube channel, I do a weekly show called The Intersection, where it's sort of a TED Talk meets a law school class, and I do it in an entertaining way. If you like my work, I think you'll really enjoy what I'm doing on The Intersection. Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch Network, but we really need audio downloads now, if I had to make a request. We just got up and running. We're running not only the Tuesday show, but we're running daily updates of The Intersection, all under a playlist you can find. Go to wherever you get your audio podcast from and download The Intersection. And also, I'm almost imploring, but not begging, that you leave a review, a 5-star review, and comment. I read them. It's important to the show and also important to the algorithmic gods. We got about 60 reviews so far in a couple of weeks. Not bad, but we can do better together. Come on over to Apple and Spotify and the rest and leave reviews and 5-star reviews for The Intersection. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states. States and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.